Ladies and gentlemen, Venezuelan analysis, Maduro. Well, as I told you, it would be over very, very quickly because nothing can stand against the beast, the United States military. All the radars were off, nothing was on, the generals were all paid off and all their Miami bank accounts are full. They did the same in Iraq. Iraq was generals, the Iraqi Republican Guard generals, they were having tea with them months before the invasion, American Special Forces. And after the invasion, the Iraqi military police in Baghdad were hitting the streets. They were locked and loaded in uniform. And Paul Bremer stepped in, Kissinger and associates, and said, fuck off. All Ba'ath Party are dismantled. The Pentagon said, if you do that, you will cause an insurgency. It will be a giant Shia-Sunni split. A lot of American soldiers will die and a lot of Iraqi civilians will die. And they said, we don't care. We're doing it anyway. And they did, because the plan was to what? Set Iraq on fire. Oh, did you not? And then Iran steps in and becomes a force in the region. The Iranian nuclear program is totally Israeli run. That's why Israel can waltz in, take 5 tons of documents, and everyone goes, wow, they just walked into Tehran and took 5 tons of documents because they run them all.
In 2015, Iran intensified its efforts to hide its secret nuclear files. In 2017, Iran moved its nuclear weapons files to a highly secret location in Tehran. This is the Shorabad district in southern Tehran. This is where they kept the atomic archives, right here. Few Iranians knew where it was, very few, and also a few Israelis. Now, from the outside, this was an innocent-looking compound. It looks like a dilapidated warehouse. But from the inside, it contained Iran's secret atomic archives locked in massive files. Actually, they're a little bigger than this, okay? A few weeks ago, in a great intelligence achievement, Israel obtained 0.5 ton of the material inside these vaults.
The US must now dismantle its Latin American dictator set and its narco-trafficking set, just as Israel is dismantling its Islamic terror network. There is no real Islamic terror network. It doesn't exist. It is all City of London, MI6, MI5. It's all set up. They run all the funds through Paris, France, Frankfurt, Germany, Basel, Switzerland, Bank of International Settlements. And they fund ISIS, they fund the Shia militias, they fund them all. You cannot shift billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars around without the NSA sniffing it up your ass. No possum farts on this planet without the National Reconnaissance Office and the NSA knowing about it. Okay? So just stop the garbage. You saw Hezbollah, just gone. One after another within a week. Boom, boom, boom. Nasrallah gone, his 2 IC gone, the 3 IC gone, boom. Well, how do they know where they are all the time? Because Hezbollah is an Israeli City of London invention. Hamas is an Israeli City of London invention. All Islamic terror is an Israeli City of London invention. Latin American dictators, narco-traffickers are an Israeli City of London invention. And all their networks within the United States run them. The Wall Street bankers and financiers, the retired generals, that's who runs the narco-traffickers. Mexico's not running the narco-traffickers. Venezuela's not running the narco-traffickers. Colombia's not running the narco-traffickers. It is all run by American, white, Anglo-Saxon Protestants with their Israeli, Russian friends. That's the network. They are also in the evangelical Christian movement. They're Turning Point USA, and they launder masses of drug money through their church system as well. And friends like, Eric Blackwater, the old Blackwater, and Eric Prince. All these private contractors are private contractors, the vast majority. Once you understand that, we can stop the fantasy that little Mexico is beating up the poor Americans with their drug trade. It's simple, ridiculous garbage. So just as you see Bibi cleaning up the Islamic terror network, okay, they're going to clean it all up now. They've been ordered. What they're going to do now is clean up the networks within Central South America and Mexico. Do you not understand the similarities, the way Israel just blew the shit out of Hamas and Hezbollah? Just to remind you, Hezbollah, who was all through the region down here too, they're in Mexico, they come through Cuba, they hit the beaches, they go up through the borders. Huge Lebanese population, Mexico City involved in the drug trafficking. Wherever you find drug trafficking, you find Jews and Muslims getting along extremely well. They all seem to get along when you're dealing drugs. And Jews, Christians, and ostensibly Christians, ostensibly Jewish, ostensibly Christian, and ostensibly Muslim, all working hand in hand, because there's nothing talks the universal language of mucho dinero, the money. So these systems go through, as Kay Griggs told us, drug trafficking, motorcycle gangs, organized crime, secondary weapons trading, all that stuff that gets all the stuff. And Hezbollah said they were going to blow up Israel. They had 170,000 missiles aimed at the ammonia tank farms at the ports of Haifa, and they didn't do a fucking thing. It was a complete stage act. They blew up a couple of things with some guided missiles, and that was it. That was it. Iran fired, 30, 40, 50 ballistic missiles, scratched a bit of paint, scratched Moshe's car, really destroyed his Saturday night out, and that's the war. It's all a fraud. Zarif and Rouhani trained for 6 years in Scotland at a Scottish university, hanging with Lord Levi and Jack Straw, and Lord Levi and Jack Straw are best friends with Lord Jacob Rothschild. It's staring you in the fucking face. So once we understand all these networks, Iran, Cuba does not intimidate the United States. Cuba's just there to justify a defense intelligence agency budget. These dictators are giving the finger, oh, you watch out, America. I mean, it's beards waving in the wind. They're all pedophiles, homosexual, closet bisexuals. They're all drug addicts. Maduro's got his Swiss bank account. I mean, it's just a fraud. They're just stage actors, and now it's all being dismantled. Watch how easily it is dismantled. This is the key I can give you. Watch how easily this entire system just disappears. And you go, wait a minute, where's my standard for the last 50 years Latin American dictator? I miss them. Where's my narco trafficking? I need a 10-part Netflix series. It's just all gone. What happened? Did America suddenly get some balls? Well, no, there's clearly a huge change taking place. America's just going to rule. Canada, you're on the list. Now, 200 miles on the Mexican border is going to go all the way down to Monterrey and the Baja, because it's a huge national security issue. This is high-tech stuff going into northern Mexico. It will be completely shut down. They will green the desert. It's going to be beautiful cities built down there. Juarez will be redeveloped. I've been listening to a really interesting Apple book, audiobook, because I think I should be in the Marines because I just can't read anymore. I love audiobooks. And this audiobook is awesome about Apple, its time in China, Tim Cook, Jobs, everything, all the players. And it's fascinating, when they first built that iMac, they were building them in Juarez. But the security was so bad, and they were so worried about being kidnapped. They were driving these crappy old cars so they wouldn't draw attention. And they would go across the border into America to sleep, and then they would come across the border during the day into Juarez and Culiacan, I can't remember the name. And there they were assembling these iMacs. Fascinating story. So if you are a Mexican who just wants to get along and just have good relations with the United States, maybe the United States will be nice to you, Mexico. You never know your luck in the big city. But I think it will be a blessing for the Mexican people in the northern border regions, where these are high-tech jobs. So once you etch the silicon in Arizona, the real high-tech stuff, and they're going to have to shift all that high-tech stuff out of the Netherlands and Belgium, IMEC and ASML, that all has to come back. Word is, I heard from some people over there that they are pushing visas to their top engineers now. And we'll talk about Taiwan in a minute. That's going to. So 200 miles of border, it will be beautiful. Israeli companies will step in with all the biometric scanning, the new camera systems that will be integrated, AI, automated. Gemini will be there doing our birth charts for us and predicting the future. And we're talking greening desert, beautiful hot houses, beautiful food being produced there as well in the desert, water reclamation projects. The example look like San Pedro, Monterrey, beautiful. It's going to be glass, steel structures. 20, 30, 40 billion dollars investment over the next 20 years. So this is high-end stuff where the etched silicon has to be assembled. Heat sinks have to be put on. They have to put it on boards. It's intricate work. They have to have little diodes. That's quite high-paying work for local Mexicans. And then once they're assembled there, because it's supply chain, remember, they're not shipping them to Vietnam and Malaysia. There'll still be some done there. In the end, they may not be done there at all, and it will all be done within the United States borders, because it's a form of national security and control, because the world needs chips and the US will dominate, which they should have done in the first place. And it took a Jew, Andy Gove of Intel, to warn, stop manufacturing overseas. And he screamed and he screamed and he screamed. And what did a bunch of other Jews like fucking Kissinger do? Although Kissinger doesn't even consider himself Jewish, he couldn't care less. They just shipped it all overseas despite all these warnings. That's why you've never heard of Andy Grove, a Hungarian Jew who made good, who basically built and refined Intel with Robert Noyce and all the gang Gordon Moore. It's a fascinating story, the rise of Intel, Silicon Valley. It's fascinating. These were really good people. proud Americans who wanted the best for America, and the corporate world in America now just ships the manufacturing overseas. Warned and warned and warned. But of course, globalists were running these internationalist, Trotskyite, banking, financial, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock, all the City of London stuff. So once you understand this big picture, Mexico will go next. Don't know when. I said in March 2025 from La Paz that they were planning to do this. Then a week later, of all people, Peter Zion repeated the exact same thing I said. Not that Peter Zion says anything particularly good, but big picture is very good. His 4 books are excellent, really gives you a good overall picture. I'm not sure where his analysis is going now. I don't know what drugs he's on, but whatever. Remember, this is 20 years. This is going to, I keep telling people, it's not stopping. You're going to have another one. There'll be no huge, nuclear weapon, maybe in Ukraine, and we'll talk about that. To end the Ukraine war, because it's good theatre, tactical nuke. But you need to understand, as I've said, it's going to be continuous. It's not going to be some new COVID event. There may be a COVID, but I think it'll be very isolated to China and India, because they really want to cull off a great section of their stuff. So if you don't know, there's a huge shortage now of random access memory, RAM memory, and a bunch of AI companies bought up like the entire stockpile of memory. So instead of a memory kit, say you made a 64 gigabyte memory kit with a big desktop sort of computer, that might have cost you $180 US. Now it costs you $500 US and more. It's a big problem. Now I'm thinking to myself, well, what is the reason for this? And there's all these theories going around that, ChatGPT, dickheads, Sam Altman is trying to, disrupt other people's AI stuff. They're not disrupting everyone's working together. It's all Department of Defense. It's all the Pentagon. It's all NSA being run. These people are just fronts. They've just got 4 or 5 companies. It's all artificial competition. There is no competition. It's all the Department of Defense. The AI stuff is identical to the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb. That's why cost doesn't matter. Profits don't matter. It's like saying, why are you building an atomic bomb? There's no money in it. Who are you going to sell them to? Well, it's not. It's a national security issue. It's a world domination issue. And the US will dominate AI, as I told you, and they will put a great big base at Gaza Lago in Gaza, and they will be controlling a huge amount of data flowing down through the Bunting Cloverleaf map and Israel down into Africa. This is the new oil, the domination and gathering of data. That's why it's highly likely that Xi Jinping will stay in power, because they own him now. He's had to get rid of all his generals, and I guarantee you the US was giving Xi Jinping the list of generals to get rid of. I guarantee you they were giving Putin the list of generals to get rid of. Vladimir Putin got rid of his best generals. They were either under house arrest, dead, or in jail. Now, we haven't heard from him since. They're his best generals who said, stop this ridiculous war. You're just running men into slaughter. And instead of Putin going, you might be right, let's come up with something new, they just kept the program rolling right along with the incompetent Gerasimov and the rest of them. And there's some very strange things happened in Ukraine with the coke-addicted, cross-dressing, bisexual, half-witted idiot Zelensky. When the great General Zaluzny, if you look him up, Zaluzny is a really good guy, a good general, cares about his men. And he was told, we need to go now. When they were running the Russians out of Zaporizhzhia on the river with 50 cows mounted on Humvees, they ran them out and they said, let's keep going. We need tanks immediately. We need infantry fighting vehicles immediately. Let's go. And the Americans went, yeah, can't you get them off the Germans? And the Germans said, well, we're not giving you tanks because when, the Nazi passed. And the Americans said, well, why don't you give them some tanks? Well, your diesel tanks are better. Well, why don't you use your Abrams? Well, no, it's a gas turbo. And this went on for nearly 8 months. And there's General Zaluzny saying, they are building the SUBVERSION line 3, 4, 5 layers deep. If you don't go now, we're fucked. Then he said, I need 10. He said, for every 10 minesweepers and anti-mining vehicles he requested, they gave him one. He got 10% of what he asked for. They then drove into a minefield and everyone laughed as they got slaughtered. That was deliberate. That was the United States, the wonderful United States, NATO and Britain that did that. And so Zaluzny went off and said, I am not slaughtering my men. They said, just do a focused attack and go through. He said, dude, we'll have nothing left. It's absurd what he was told to do. They were trying to get them all killed. And they fired Zelensky. Now we think he's in London somewhere learning English, and maybe he'll replace Zelensky when they get rid of that coke rat, piece of garbage. And the new general has done so many bad things, everyone's just sitting there going, what is going on? Well, the war's being managed, and they're just killing as many Slavs as possible because they're going to dump all the Israeli Jewish Hasidim, all the Hasidim there, all the ultra-Orthodox. They want to get rid of them. They need somewhere to dump them. And I agree. People said from the beginning, this is about killing off the Slavs to dump all the Jews or all the ultra-Orthodox Hasidim, Chabad and all the rest, to give them a homeland because everyone wants rid of them. They want them out of America. That's the deal, and we'll talk about that. That's the deal. I said, I think that's a back end. I don't think it's the front end, but it's definitely on the back end. No, I think you're right. I think it was one of the top 3 programs to create a little homeland. If you don't know, the rates of sexual abuse and domestic violence in these ultra-Orthodox communities is off the charts. I know because I used to speak to them. Chabad as well. And we're seeing this management. It's worldwide. It's OConnell worldwide. And that's why you just saw the United States walk in and grab Maduro. And now Cuba's given the finger and bring it on, says Colombia. And it's like, dudes, does this make sense to you? These people are not that stupid. But they're behaving very stupidly. Would you agree? They just watched Maduro, right? You and Maduro's cool as a cucumber. I said, you know what? If what happened is what happened, then he's a cool, but it's pretty, if he's going down in style. He's not whimpering like a bitch. I don't believe it. All right? He was told, you are our acting bitch. Here is our Emanuel. Here's the World Wrestling Federation. This is a World Wrestling Federation ringside fight. We're going to have you up there. You'll be defiant. And we'll have a great show. Remember, it's about the news cycle. The news cycle is so important. They want to keep Epstein away. They want to keep the news cycle very, very busy. I said this. It's going to be just one thing after another. Then another. There won't be a nuke per se or some cataclysmic event. There may be another COVID. It will be isolated to China and India. All right. And I think that's why Sam Altman, a lot of people are buying up all this RAM and other stuff. They're getting ready for a possible problem. I don't know if it'll be a big problem or a small problem, but supply chain is going to be a problem. This is the only thing you need to worry about. Forget about the US dollar doing this or that. It's irrelevant. It's supply chain. If the supply chain breaks down, because China's still making an awful lot of Walmart trinkets, nuts, bolts, nails, guess what? You get a shortage of nails, nuts, and bolts, you can't build a house. You can't make this, you can't make that. I mean, it's a huge problem. That's why in the 70s, they should have built what? The supply chain where? As a US national security issue. Where would you build the supply chain? You would build it in Mexico, Central and South America, right on your doorstep, right? But Kissinger said, no, we shall put it in China to benefit my friends in Europe and London and Russia. That's why why would you put it in China? Kissinger said, well, we lifted people out of poverty. That has nothing to do with that. They're building Eurasia for the City of London Rothschild network. They're all assets of Rothschild, including Maduro, and so was Donald Trump in the day. We'll talk about that. Maduro got his orders and he's playing his role. None of the equipment failed, although the US could destroy it very easily. It didn't fail. It was never switched on. The radars weren't switched on. Nothing was switched on. Everyone was told to go home, and the generals went home. And that was it. America doesn't wage war like that. They just pay everyone off because it's fake from the very beginning. All right? You do realize that Maduro lost the election by an absolute landslide, and he would have lost by even more. The original woman he banned, they put another guy up, and he still got 70% of the vote. Across the board, 70%, including in the very low-end working class boroughs and whatever of Caracas. He's hardcore. Where Chavez had built his infrastructure and the free food and stuff, he still lost 70% of the vote. He lost. He was thrashed. 600,000 volunteers were filming everybody's vote, and they were uploading individual images of the vote. And he got absolutely thrashed. The military are poor. They're selling our equipment to eat. I told you all this before, and voila, 2.5 hours, all over. And everyone, Tucker Carlson told you, World War III, or the leftists, oh, poor Venezuela, it's such a paradise. $500 billion of Chinese investment. Where's all the fucking money? See, we go on about America. Sure, I'll go on about America, criticize it. But funnily enough, you apply a certain standard to America, And yet you will happily sing the praises of a dictator that is 10 times worse than America. This is the criticize America, rightly so, absolutely. But can you please apply the same standard to Putin or China or whatever? Just come on, let's get some common sense in here because it's getting a little bit silly. Would you agree? I'm just pleased that 50,000 Venezuelans didn't die like Iraq. That's what I'm pleased about. The Venezuelans deserve the right to have the same basic freedoms we all have without fear to call their presidents and their leadership and their oligarchy corrupt pieces of shit that run them pieces of shit without getting their heads cut off. I think they deserve that. So they can also have a pretend two-party, uniparty bullshit system of control like the rest of us, and they can go and shop on Amazon. But that's the start. And maybe, well, probably not, it's too late, but maybe they'll actually have a proper educated citizenry one day. You never know your luck in the big city. So Maduro is in on it. He's in on it, all right? The actors, they're just acting. He's happy. He doesn't have to run and go to Russia. He doesn't want to go to Russia. And after he's performed his duties and gets his 70,000 years in Supermax, he'll be disappeared and everyone will raise a cheer. The narco thugs, when all the narco traffickers are in America, it's run by the fucking private security contractors and that out of the US and retired generals and special forces, for God's sake, with Israeli, Russian special forces involved as well. It's just such garbage. And they are clearly really, they're cleaning that up. Just like the Islamic terror networks, because America's just going to rule now. It's going to openly rule. You'll have to decide whether it's a good or bad thing. I'm just a little bit worried about the AI, Lockheed, Raphael systems, British aerospace systems, battle management system linked in with automated killing machines, aren't you? Because I don't notice too much rhetoric. I'm sure there is some somewhere, but I'm not noticing too much rhetoric because they keep saying they've got to build all these automated systems. But why? If you look in China, it's all US technology. Look in Russia, the Ukrainians are suing the United States. The Ukrainians are saying, every time we get a missile fired at us and we open it up, we find a big bunch of Global Foundries New York chips in there. You're not making any effort to stop these chips getting into the hands of Russia. Russia has no high-tech capacity. It's a mighty Russia is slugging it out World War I style with tiny Ukraine flying drones around. There you go. Okay? They're very smart people, the Slavs. They've got a lot of mathematics degrees. They're electrical engineers. They don't have the industrial base. Not even close. Every high-end tech, every chip they have for their thermal imaging on their tanks and their gyro-stabilized systems in their tanks and their aircraft is US or European or Japanese. Everything. So if the sworn enemy, you want to bring your sworn enemy down, you stop arming them. Very simple. But that's the game. The game was explained to us in the report from Iron Mountain. Let's keep the war going. Post-World War II, we don't want a depression. We need the economic stimulus of war. We need the Pentagon budget to subsidize the high-tech industry, to build the machines that will kill us all ultimately. It could build machines that will take us to the stars. It could build machines where we do become multiplanetary. It's going to take a while. There's a lot of science, a lot of stuff that has to be invented. And I put to you people that claim we're never going to Mars. Well, we're not going to Mars this century, most likely, maybe next century, but it can all be done. They've made huge inroads on the health and physicality of gravity, a lack of gravity, huge inroads. And once you get into the AI stuff mixed in with the CERN particle accelerator, you start to mimic, you can simulate the universe, and you start making advances in 1 year that would take you 100 years. And I'm not joking. I want you to look at the Wright brothers in 1903, and 60 years later, they had the SR-71 all titanium Mach 3.2 Blackbird flying between 80 and 100,000 feet. Wright brothers, 1903, 1963, 60 years. The advancements now are 10 times that. Don't tell me they couldn't come up with some wild and crazy quantum shit in high-tech stuff like, I don't know, artificial gravity. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Listen, if you just said to the Wright brothers, wow, your rickety little plane, that was awesome. You flew 300 feet. I predict in 60 years, less than one lifetime, we'll have an all-titanium Mach 3.2 cruise turbo ramjet miracle jet. They just look at you and go, what the hell are you talking about? That's the best metaphor I can give you for how fast technology can advance. Things you cannot even imagine. Rickety little 1903 Wright brothers to the SR-71 Blackbird. Incredible. All right, so stop trying to say crazy shit can't be invented tomorrow, particularly with the AI. It's all about the AI. So the US is securing its supply chain. I said, when did I say, 2 years ago? Watch out, Mexico. When was it? 18 months ago when he renamed the Gulf of America, whenever it was. Sorry, my brain's fried. I said, watch out. What did I say? They're going to take over Colombia and Venezuela, and they're going to industrialize it. And they will be doing fabrication. And Mexico is going to miss out if it keeps playing silly games with France and Macron. Okay, but the US could also stop interfering in here, but so can France. The old France is deeply in Latin America. We never hear about France. Sweden's in here as well. The Brits are in here as well. The Chinese, of course, and a whole range of Russians and others. But, France. Why are you all learning French in Mexico? Very interesting. So with all this in mind, because that's the World Economic Forum, they want to lock all the Catholics up and sterilize them, basically. So we see, really, at the end of the day, the securing of a supply chain. That's what it's all about, which should have happened in the 70s. You wouldn't have had the kill squads. There'd be no communists because people would have reasonable standards of living. None of this had to happen. This was all Kissinger, Council on Foreign Relations, Carnegie, Atlantic Council, all of it. They create chaos in the region. Death squads are running around. Well, we have to fight the communists. The Russians, the Soviets are in here, and death squads and horrendous things went on. I remember the 70s and the 80s. It was horrendous. An apology might go down well, actually, in the region, America. All right, but now they're going to fix it, allegedly. Supply chain. So this is a very delicate time. Stands to reason that Xi Jinping will stay in power, but who the hell knows? They could also free the Chinese people. That would be interesting. But I think for now, they really just want to keep the war powers act going with a powerful China who's got AI too, and they're coming to get you. They've got Klingon, warp drive, battle cruisers, and it's all bullshit. And just another $1 trillion to Lockheed. This is the game. This is the great game. They can't get off the drug of narco trafficking, liquid drug money, and the Pentagon budget. They can't get themselves off it. So they're going to have to come up with something. They're scratching their little idiot heads as we speak to try and work it out. So Maduro went down, Colombia will go, Cuba will go, and Mexico. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing in Mexico, but they're losing 200 miles of border. But again, how they do it overtly or covertly, if you're in Mexico, the border region will be quelled. They've already got, on Preston Stewart, I watched a guy talking about, pregnant women. Now, it's actually an excellent 33-minute and 30-second video. Really good. There's a Mexican guy. And link below. And a lot of very interesting things. But at the end, they had their baby in the incubator Iraq story. And I was like, oh, come on. Here comes the invasion stories. Here they come. And he's basically saying that pregnant women are being lured and the babies at late term, third trimester are being pulled out and then sent across the border to America as sex slaves or something, and they're taking their organs. And I'm just going, oh, stop it. No, don't try this bullshit. But anyway, I guess we'll be getting these stories ready for the invasion. What else? As you can imagine, being a foreigner in Mexico, I'm not feeling particularly good about it. So I obviously am very stressed, if you haven't noticed, about what I do next and where I go next. So I would like to hunker down a little and do some more voiceovers, particularly that one on ICTS, Outward Security, out of the Netherlands, near the ports where all the coke comes in, mixed in with, ASML on iMac, and what a very interesting little story that is. Again, I counted 27 scripts I've started and never finished. 27. So I want to take a break from just reacting to stuff. It's Pluto stuff. It's heavy, man. It's a heavy astrological time, collectively and individually, if you're a heavy Scorpio, Pluto type of person. It's heavy as hell. It's horrible. This portal is just freaking horrible. I have a few things on my mind. But anyway, without burying the lead, I told you, all the experts told you World War III would start. How dare America? It will be settled in 5 minutes. All the generals are paid off. They're not making the same mistake Kissinger and associates caused in Iraq by sacking all the Ba'ath Party and creating a civil war, which was the plan. They're not doing that here. It's going to happen very fast, settle. Colombia, Mexico, Cuba will go down, and that's going to be wonderful for the Cuban people. these people were maintained by the United States. The history of Castro, Eisenhower loved Castro. He thought he was a cool dude, Eisenhower. Then you can see the interview in bad English, but Castro saying, look, I'm not a communist, I'm not a Marxist, I'm kind of a socialist, but he wanted good relations with the US. They told him to fuck off. And so he said, well, okay then, I'll go to the Soviet Union. That's what they did to Castro. Castro was one of their boys. Now, why exactly they did that? I guess they wanted an enemy on the borders to keep the whole Cold War bullshit going. I see no other reason. And the rest is history. If the US wanted to wipe out Cuba and just roll right on in there and the Cuban people would be celebrating, you seriously think the Cuban people want to live in shit? You seriously think they want to live like that? They can't wait for fucking America to invade. You watch. Sure, there might be, I don't know, individual hardcores shooting, killing a few people here and there, but it will be placated very quickly. And then there's going to be a lot of economic development. It's going to be a lot of stuff happening. So you've waited for the collapse. There's no fucking collapse. You're actually going to see a lot of economic development in the region, going all the way down Mexico, Central. Look, Mexico, you're gonna do well, okay? Might be some few ups and downs. Just get over yourself, team up with Team America, and God willing, you know, Marco Rubio, the little bubble boy from Miami, he speaks Spanish, and apparently he's doing a pretty good job down there at the State Department. So I think there'll be some very positive things happening in the region. There might be a few ups and downs. But as I said, Tucker Carlson told you World War III would surely start. Oh my God, they're starting wars. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh my God, just stop it, you fucking clown. It's a clown show of idiots. You're just such idiots. What are you all going to do when it's all done and everyone goes, oh, there's a new sheriff in town. Israel doesn't wield this power. Now let's talk about Israel-Jewish power. No, Donald Trump does not work for the Jews. He's working with the Jews. Why is he working with the Jews? Donald Trump runs nothing. He is a stage actor with the Department of Defense, the FBI and the CIA and the DIA and the NSA. All right, and the old Wall Street gang there, all working together. Now, normally they would just round them up and shoot a lot of them. However, there are some problems. The problems is, as I've said over and over, it's not just the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. They can get past that. It's the critical infrastructure, which still today is in the hands of Israeli companies. So this gives Bibi leverage. Of course, they've told Bibi, we'll just cut your throat anyway. And Sarah's been working for us for years. You know, Sarah Netanyahu, Trump's secret weapon.
I would say it was always good. No president has done what I've done for Israel. And we've always had a very good relationship. And if I didn't, I have a secret weapon. You know what it is? Sarah. You're sitting right up there. I have Sarah. As long as I have Sarah, that's all that matters.
This has been a very long process of a very dangerous game that's gone on. When it comes out in documentaries and movies, publicly at least, you are going to see just how deeply embedded. All you have to do is watch a FBI-sponsored documentary on how they captured one Chinese scientist. And it's like, wow, it's a big deal. 50 people, they're celebrating, we got them. Now times it by 1,000 and make them Israeli/Russian. And they're literally running all your power grids, all your water, all your oil, all your gas, all your industrial controller chips from the state level, the local towns, the federal level, the databases, the NSA, the CIA, the DIA, the Pentagon, the core coding Microsoft products, that's developing and designing Intel products. Qualcomm was largely designed. That's the chip that's right there in my Samsung phone. Awesome chip. Right there, it's Israeli. The 5G, Israeli. And there you have the big secret, which is why no one's allowed to see me or my name, ever. You just remember when the tanks roll across the border, or however they do it, but it will be an invasion. They will secure the northern border region. Tucker Carlson told you World War III would surely start. Iran, not sure what they're going to do there. They may try and put the Shah back in. They're very popular. 70% of the population, they hate Arabs. They hate Islam. They consider Islam an invader. That took away their Zoroastrianism thing where they jump over the fires at Christmas time and they jump over the fires. They still allow them to do that. They don't like it. Very pro-Germany. They worship Angela Merkel. The Euros are keeping them alive. That's France and Germany and Switzerland have been keeping Iran alive while America's swearing They're going to bring them down. It's like, well, you might want to stop all those billions of euros on oil and gas going to Germany. They're not fighting Israel. I mean, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was, absolutely, he's the real deal. That's why they've been keeping him out of politics, because they've been doing deals with the Rothschilds. Why do you think Ayatollah Khomeini came out of a Paris commune? The Ayatollah came out of a Paris commune on a Lufthansa flight with a German intelligence film crew following him in. The German jihad, look it up. Again, it's Rothschild. It's not Germany. It's not France. It's not Switzerland. It's Rothschild. They are running all these stage actors, and they're now being dismantled. Just as Kissinger was handling with Jared Kushner, and Hachbad was handling Trump. Till Madison Pompeo took him away. And we need to show this, so I'm going to show it. We're 38 minutes in, or longer, depending on how much editing I do. I'm going to give you a positive spin on Trump. I can't stand the sight of him. I'm sick of him, but let me give credit where credit is due. Here he is with Pompeo, absolutely reaming the asshole of the Germans, doing their Gazprom deals. That's you, Gerhard Schroeder, doing their oil and gas deals with Russia.
President Trump confirmed Europe's worst pre-summit fears by using the NATO stage to criticize allies, blasting Germany over a natural gas pipeline deal with Russia.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia.
German officials deny that the controversial Nord Stream 2 pipeline will allow Russia to exert undue influence over their country. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg tried to keep the peace.
We are stronger together than apart.
But how can you be together when a country is getting its energy from the person you want protection against, or from the group that you want protection?
Because we understand that when we stand together, also when dealing.
Okay, if he worked for the Jews, he would not be doing that. Okay, the next one is 2018. This is just after that video I did with Mudge Peter Zatko talking about the transfer of technology from the military-industrial contractors are sending the tech to the enemies of the United States to get more contracts. Here is Donald Trump pulling out the head of Lockheed, Marilyn Hewson, at a special White House event talking about the future of US technology domination. And he literally turns to her and said, "You're not going to lose any more technology now, are you?"
We have some of our great business leaders and leaders, period, right behind me. I may ask Marilyn, Lockheed, the leading woman's business executive in this country, according to many. And we buy billions and billions of dollars worth of that beautiful F-35. It's stealth. You cannot see it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Better be correct, right?
Absolutely.
Marilyn, please say a few words.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I would just say that this is a very important moment for our country, in that we are addressing what is a critical area for the aerospace and defense industry, and that is protecting our intellectual property.
So with this in mind, Trump just going after Marilyn Hewson. This is a first. No president, apart from one a few years back, had an unfortunate accident, took on the military-industrial complex. Donald Trump did that. Have you had a single MAGA idiot repeat that? Nobody's even seen this video. Nobody even gets it. Then, of course, Trump comes up and spills the beans to Fox News about how Iran is begging, please, please don't attack us, please. We're just going to fire a couple of missiles and we need to do it for our public. And yeah, fire a few missiles, knock yourself out.
Mr. President, I want to get back to Iran. We lost 3 service members last week. May they rest in peace. In Jordan, an enemy drone from Iranian-backed proxies launched that deadly drone strike, killed our heroes. What should be the proper response?
Before you go too far, would have never happened with me. I had Iran in check. Do you know, we hit them very hard for something that they did, and they had to hit back. They feel they have to do that, and I understand that. Do you know they called me to tell me we're going to hit a certain location, but we're not going to hit it. It's going to be outside of the perimeters.
Who called you?
Iran called me. Called for me. And they let us know, and we had 16 missiles went off. I believe it was 16. 6 or 7 failed in the air.
When was this?
This was prior to the attack on a fort that we had where they hit back. Do you remember when they sent 18 missiles or 16 missiles? 5 failed. They let us know
don't move. We're going to have to hit you back. Psychologically, we have to do that because we hit them on something. You remember, they sent 16 or 18 missiles, and we knew they weren't going to hit inside the fort. And the media was going, and now I reveal it, the media was going wild because they say it's strange. They're very accurate missiles. How come they all missed? Nobody was killed, if you remember.
Yes,
with all of those
do.
missiles, nobody was killed. Now, they had to do it because they have people and they have to show strength. So they aimed the missiles, but they said, please don't attack us. We're not going to hit you. That was respect. We had respect. When we took out Soleimani, you know, Israel was supposed to do it with us. 2 days before the takeout, they said, we can't do it. We can't do it. I said, what? We can't do it. Then I had a certain general who's great. I said, so General, do we do it ourselves? He said, we can, sir. It's up to you. I said, we'll do it. But Israel was a part of it. You know, Bibi was a big part of it. And we had everything planned, everything, because what he has done is terrible. What he did to us was terrible. Killed so many of our soldiers. Killed so many people. He's the father of the roadside bomb. You know that, right? And Soleimani, we can't, it was just incredible. And al-Baghdadi, I wiped him out too. Yeah. We took out al-Baghdadi, the founder of ISIS, that nobody could find except me, and Soleimani, father of the roadside bomb. Yeah. Now, and beyond that, killed many people. He was going to attack 5 of our military bases, and we took him out. And we took him out without Israel, because Israel, 2 days before the attack, they said, we cannot participate.
It's all stage theater. Emanuel, World Wrestling Federation. Everyone's terrified of the United States. And now the United States is losing its power, using its power. I don't know where it's going to end up. I'd like to think it will be good. And as the years pass by, we'll go, oh, thank God. And then we're going to have a lot of rhetoric about the dangers of AI and automated killing machines and a winding down of the military-industrial complex into more civilian high-tech use without justifying $10 billion to build a drone, which then spins off a bit of technology into your microwave oven, and everyone goes, it's wonderful. Why don't we just build a micro? You know, when Japan wants to build an Xbox or a PlayStation, it doesn't have $1 trillion military budget to then spin off an Xbox or a PlayStation. It just builds a PlayStation. It's a very inefficient way of doing it, but as Eisenhower said, they've become addicted to it. It has to end now, and they want to move it into space exploration. Well, if you're going to do that, you're going to have to get rid of the half-wits you keep putting in control. And it's messing with a lot of people's heads that they keep pushing half-wits forward. I can only conclude it's destabilized perception. That's all I can conclude. So there's just a few things that Trump has done which the MAGA hero will never talk about. No one will ever talk about it, ever. It's very big things that were done. It's a lot of good things that are happening, but no billionaires are paying tax. They still pay zero tax, zero. Zero, 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 zero. In fact, they just get taxpayer handouts. They don't pay tax. Tax is for the morons. Tax are for the poor. Tax are for the working class. Billionaires don't pay tax. And still we start there. Steve Bannon said, you either pay 44% over $5 million of income, all right, or 3,000 Luigis will fill the streets and start shooting you in your restaurants. Well said, Steve Bannon. That's not happening, clearly. In fact, Trump is handing out more power and more taxpayer subsidies to his bullshit billionaire friends. That's a big problem. Where are the paper ballots? Where's the discussion on the paper ballots? Mary Silva is in the Republican Party in Washington State, and they don't want to talk about it. Oh, it takes time. No, you just do a paper ballot. You've done them for hundreds of years. Paper ballot, do it now. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want paper ballots. Oh, okay. Fauci's not in jail. Fauci's still not in jail. How many millions are dead? How many? COVID? Remember COVID? Oh, we've all forgotten, moved on to the next subject. Epstein, of course, shifted to the side. I didn't care much about it. They're just taken over his network. Are they sick? Epstein's just one of dozens of Israeli and foreign run, not just Israeli, Chinese run. They're all doing it. France does it. Brits do it. British are doing it heavily. So, you know, I don't want to dismiss it, but I kind of found it as a bit of a distraction. But Trump, although I don't believe he's a pedophile, he's sure hung around a lot of pedophiles. But, you know, Bill Gates isn't in jail. He's still wandering around. Fauci's not in jail. We could have a list of people who should be in jail and are not in jail. Clinton's not in jail. We don't even talk about, like, narco trafficking. We don't talk about, remember Mena, Arkansas, everyone? The Clintons and the Bushes, who are literally brother and sister family. Mena, Arkansas, Barry Seal. We don't even talk about it anymore. Iran Contra. Come on, man. It's all private contractors now. It's all private contractors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's my basic analysis. Overall, it's going to be very good for the people of Mexico, Central and South America. The Islamic terror network is being dismantled. The Latin American dictator narco-trafficking circles is being completely dismantled. However, the cocaine will flow. The fentanyl will be stopped, but the cocaine will flow. There's a lot of doctors, lawyers, Wall Street brokers, teenagers at Cancun who need their cocaine. So don't be mean. They still want their cocaine. They die from the effects of fat, sugar, alcohol, and tobacco. So when you're ready to deal with that, you tell me all about drugs, particularly cocaine. Fucking harmless. And you're filling your kids with Adderall and amphetamines as we speak. Not to mention the Sacklers and all the rest. And you want to talk about narco traffickers and cocaine, deadly cocaine. Now, if you can't take your drugs responsibly, whether it's alcohol, then go to jail if you're an idiot. But 99% of people take drugs responsibly and go home. As people say, I don't have a drug problem, I have a money problem. All right, when Mel Gibson gets busted, beating up his Russian hookers with his IDF bodyguards for the fourth time driving drunk while high on cocaine, he doesn't go to jail. He goes to rehab because he's got lots of money. We need to empty the fucking jails of this bullshit war on drugs. It's bullshit. All right, it's the worst control mechanism. It's making people filthy freaking rich. The prison industrial complex. You know, you got to go for a psychiatric appointment. You could just be taken down the road, or a psychiatrist could come to the prison. No, you stick them on Air America. You put them on the prison transport planes and fly them across the country to make more money for these people running these airlines for prisoners. It's a huge boon. The prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex. We need to talk about that. We need to talk about billionaires paying tax. We need to talk about the $5 trillion that's missing out of the Pentagon budget, and $100 billion a year is going missing every single freaking year. By all means, get the Somali rip-off merchants in Minnesota. By all means, lock them up for life. But are you going to get the crackers in Armani who are stealing hand over fist, and it all goes to Israel, out of the military industrial complex budget, out of the Pentagon budget? They won't even touch it. What about the $5 trillion in 2008 in Wall Street? Everyone just forgets. Tim Pool's not going to tell you. Alex Jones ain't going to mention it. Megyn Kelly ain't going to mention it. Tucker Carlson's not going to mention it. But when are you going to address these huge problems of Wall Street, drug money laundering, the rich paying no tax, and all these other issues while we keep this bullshit rolling along in the news cycle? Until Americans can focus for longer than 3 seconds on the things that matters, here we are. It's a really mixed bag. And until we truly understand Jewish power, the concept of Hofjuden, the court Jews of Europe intermixing with the inbred royals of Europe, who now they don't go to synagogue, they're not in lodges, they just consider themselves born to rule. They read Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst. That's their leader. Okay, and they believe the mob must be quelled, must be controlled, must be medicated, and ultimately euthanized. Manage and you cull your population as a farmer culls the population of his cattle or his sheep. They don't, it's nothing personal, but the planet has to be managed. We are animals, we are the profane. I'm not sure how we get from this pus-ridden, drug-addicted pieces of shit in castles in Europe and Belgium and the Netherlands and Sweden and Germany and France. I don't know how we get from their stinking system. We've infiltrated the great revolutionary principles that we are all equal in the eyes of God. The Bill of Rights, the US Constitution, which they saw as something that must be destroyed as fast as possible. And they've been infiltrating constantly for 200 plus years. They're this close. And right now, you can only give a 5 out of 10 to the Trump administration. Big picture, doing well. Local pictures, Rome wasn't built in a day, we get it. But if you can't even tell the rich, we either tax you over $5 million at 44%, or we collapse. Which would you prefer? And 3,000 Luigis are going to come looking for you. And there's not going to be enough gated communities, helicopter rides, your little tunnels you've got between your big buildings that are going to protect you. There's not going to be enough. The military will turn on you. Your own private bodyguards will turn on you. And if we can't face the fact that the problem is actually within the borders of the United States, the drug traffickers are on Wall Street, the CIA, crackers in Armani, they're all in Armani, the vast majority of them are white-skinned, and their bank accounts are in New York, it's in Washington, D.C., It's in Miami. Their limited liability LLCs and their hidden corporate structures are down there in Arizona. They're down there in South Dakota. They're over there in Nevada, right where Alex Jones has his $60 to $100 million in cash in his parents' LLC. Until we face the facts, the problem ultimately is within the borders, the barbarians within the gates. And so far, we haven't seen an unconditional surrender and justice dealt to these demon bastards. What we've seen now is a conditional surrender because US elites are just so filthily corrupt. I'm not sure how you get from pus-ridden demonic filth to a reasonable system, justice, fairness, and an engaged citizenry, freedom of information, government control over the issuance of currency, executive power over the issuance of currency under the Treasury. I'm not sure how you get from there to there. I'm not sure of the time frame. I don't know how long it takes, and I don't know how to get people engaged when they have us so locked down under this online system, and so few people are willing to hit the streets, as Mary Silva and Lee Levino and others have done. It's an interesting time. Good luck to the Venezuelan people. To the Cuban people, I think is going to be very big. To the Colombian people, actually Colombia's a little bit settled, or they're a little bit pissed. Hey, don't lump us in, we're doing our best. And of course the Mexican people. And I hope things settle down for you and eventually everyone is doing well. Maslow's hierarchy, all the basics are met, and hopefully with the basics met, with the feeling of security, you can come to the point where you can get an engaged citizenry. And as it rates at the moment, I'm a little bit worried about that happening, because if we don't become engaged citizens ourselves, not by voting once every 4 years or 4 years and then for president and then every 2 years for the Congress, if you think that's politics, you need to start joining the political parties and infiltrating them and discussing things as simple as, when do the rich pay tax? When do we address the giant Pentagon budget getting thieved from? When do we address the 5 trillion fraud on Wall Street? When do we address the drug money laundering on Wall Street? When are we going to stop blaming all these other countries for the narco trafficking, when the biggest narco traffickers are, of course, sitting in London, they're sitting in Moscow, they're sitting in Paris, France, they're sitting in Frankfurt, Germany, they're sitting in Basel, Switzerland, and they're sitting in fucking New York, Moscow on the Hudson. So you tell me when we can focus on that. Good luck. I need to do some voiceover, so I may disappear for a few days at a time. I don't just want to do reaction videos anymore for the current events. I want to do some good, solid voiceovers. We'll talk soon. F. Scott Fitzgerald, quote, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, often the impossible, come true."
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American, because that's what it's all about, and it's the only thing that it's all about. Nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom.